Do you remember the feeling of holding a photograph that mattered? A physical link to a moment you never wanted to forget. This is a story about how technology is helping us remember who we are, even in the ever-changing landscape of love and connection. Arthur sat in his favorite armchair, the late afternoon sun warming his face. Across the room, his granddaughter, Maya, sat curled on the sofa, her thumb scrolling rapidly across the glass surface of her phone. A small, electronic hum emanated from the device, a constant companion in her modern world. She giggled suddenly, a bright, unexpected sound that pulled Arthur gently from his quiet contemplation. "Everything all right over there, Maya?" he asked, his voice raspy but kind. Maya looked up, her eyes bright. "Oh, Grandpa, yeah. Just talking to Alex. He sent me the funniest meme." She held up the phone, a glowing rectangle displaying colorful images and text Arthur couldn't quite decipher from this distance. "See? It's about how awkward first dates are." Arthur chuckled. First dates. He remembered those. A different kind of awkward, perhaps. Memes, he mused. Back in my day, if you wanted to share how you felt about a date, you had to, well, talk about it. Or maybe write it down. Maya lowered her phone, intrigued. Write it down. Like, in a diary. Sometimes, Arthur said, a faraway look in his eyes. But I was thinking more about how you even got the date in the first place. And how you talked to someone after it. He gestured vaguely towards her phone. None of this. His mind drifted back across the decades, to a time when communication wasn't instant, when connection required patience, courage, and often, standing right next to a wall-mounted box with a curly cord. In the late 1980s and early 90s, Arthur's youth unfolded in a world where the internet was a distant whisper and mobile phones were bulky, expensive novelties for business types. Dating revolved around the landline. The telephone, anchored firmly to the kitchen counter or a hallway table, was the nerve center of romantic hope and despair. Getting a girl's number felt like acquiring a secret code, a key to a potential future. It was usually scribbled on a napkin, a matchbook, or a corner torn from a class schedule. There was no instant save to contacts, no cloud backup. Losing that slip of paper felt like losing the entire possibility. Arthur remembered the nervous energy, the sweaty palms, just dialing the digits. Each tone felt heavy with anticipation. The biggest hurdle wasn't just making the call, but who might answer. It could be her mom, her dad, a younger sibling. Each voice required a different strategy. If it was her parents, you had to be polite, respectful, and state your business clearly but casually. "Hello, Mr. Henderson." "Yes, sir, this is Arthur Davies. I was hoping to speak with Sarah, if she's available." It felt like a formal application process just to say hello. And then there was the dreaded answering machine. A technological marvel of its time, but a minefield for the romantically inclined. You'd hear a recorded voice, often tinny and abrupt, instructing you to leave a message after the beep. What did you say? How long should the message be? Should you leave your number? Of course you should leave your number, but saying, "Call me back," felt both hopeful and vulnerable. Arthur recalled practicing messages in his head, trying to sound cool, not desperate. Most of the time, he'd just blurt out something awkward and hang up, replaying his failure endlessly in his mind. Waiting was an art form in itself. Once you left a message, or if you called and she wasn't home, you waited. You waited by the phone. You didn't leave the house for fear of missing the crucial callback. Hours could stretch into an eternity. Every ring of the phone sent a jolt through your system. Was it her? Or just a telemarketer? The suspense was agonizing, a slow burn of hope and anxiety. This was the era of the phone cord stretched to its limit, allowing a semblance of privacy as you whispered sweet nothings or argued quietly from the hallway closet. Arthur remembered one girl, Susan. He'd met her at a college party. They talked for hours, and he felt that spark, that undeniable pull. He got her number and waited a day, the prescribed cool-off period. He called, and her dad answered. Arthur stumbled through his request, and the dad, a gruff-sounding man, simply said, "She's not home," and hung up. "No, can I take a message?" "No, she'll call you back." Just silence. Arthur stared at the receiver in his hand, a lead weight. Had he messed up? Had she told her dad to say that? The ambiguity was maddening. There was no way to know, no alternative channel of communication. He had to just wait. Or call again, risking being a pest. He chose to wait, and the call never came. A simple, abrupt end, dictated by the limitations of the technology and the gatekeepers of the household. The idea of sending a quick, casual message like Maya's funniest meme was unimaginable. Communication was deliberate, weighted with significance because it was often difficult. You didn't waste a call on something trivial. A call meant you wanted to talk, properly. A message on an answering machine was important enough to warrant a recording. Even planning to meet up was a logistical puzzle. You had to call, agree on a time and place, and hope nothing changed. If something came up for either of you, you had to call their home number again, hoping to catch them before they left. Missing someone was easy. If you missed them, you left a message or tried again later. There was no quick text saying, running 5 minutes late, or meet you at the other entrance. It required faith that the other person would be there, where and when you agreed. It built a certain kind of trust, a reliance on spoken agreements and punctuality. Sometimes, if you were truly smitten and brave, you wrote a letter. On actual paper. With a pen. This was a commitment. It took time to write, to find an envelope, a stamp, and mail it. The arrival of a letter was an event. It felt significant, personal in a way a phone call couldn't quite replicate. You could hold it, unfold it, read the words written by their hand. It was slow, yes, but it allowed for a depth of expression that was harder to achieve spontaneously on the phone. You could carefully choose your words, revise them, pour your feelings onto the page without the pressure of an immediate response. Getting a handwritten letter back felt like receiving a treasure. Arthur kept a small box of letters from his now-late wife, Mary, tied with a ribbon. They were physical pieces of their history, smelling faintly of old paper and dried flowers. Maya stirred on the sofa, bringing Arthur back to the present. "So, you just waited?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "By the phone." "We waited," Arthur confirmed with a smile. "And we hoped. It built character, I suppose. Or maybe just anxiety." Maya laughed, a sound that was like a chime compared to the distant echoes in Arthur's memory. "That sounds intense. Like, you couldn't just text, 'Hey, you free,' or send a quick pic." Arthur shook his head. "No quick pics. Sending a photo meant taking it with film, getting it developed, and then giving it to them. Took days, maybe a week." "Wow," Maya said softly, looking at her phone as if it were a magical artifact. "So, no emojis." "Definitely no emojis," Arthur chuckled. "You had to use your words. Or maybe draw a little heart on a note if you were feeling bold. Have you ever lost a photo that meant everything? Like this, if you know the feeling." Maya leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. "It's just so different now, Grandpa. Like, I can be talking to 5 different people at once about meeting up. If someone cancels, I know instantly. If I'm running late, I text. If I'm not sure what to say, I send a GIF or an emoji. There's less waiting, but maybe more pressure." "Pressure?" Arthur asked, curious. "Yeah," she sighed, scrolling again, but slower this time. "Like, the pressure to respond right away. If you don't text back fast, people think you're not interested, or you're blowing them off. And you see what everyone else is doing on Instagram or whatever, so you compare your life, your dates, your relationships to everyone else's highlight reel." She paused, looking pensive. "And there's ghosting. You ever get ghosted?" Arthur had never heard the term. "Ghosted?" "Yeah, like when someone you're talking to or even dating just disappears. Stops responding. No explanation, nothing. Like they just vanished." Arthur considered this. "We had that," he said. "Just no fancy name for it. You'd call, and they wouldn't call back. Or you'd ask them out, and they'd say they were busy, but you knew they weren't, not really. The effect was the same. Just silence where there used to be conversation." He smiled gently. "Maybe we just called it getting the brush off, or being stood up, if it happened after you'd already made plans." "Stood up still happens," Maya said. "But usually they text you to cancel, which is slightly better." "Small mercies," Arthur agreed. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the analog past meeting the digital present in the quiet living room. Arthur thought about the tangible nature of his memories, the weight of the phone receiver, the crinkle of a letter, the scent of his wife's perfume on a scarf left behind. Maya's memories, he supposed, were stored in the cloud, in chat logs and photo streams, accessed with a tap. Was one better than the other? He didn't think so. Just different paths to the same essential human experiences. The butterflies before a first date, the sting of rejection, the overwhelming joy of finding someone who understood you. Those feelings hadn't changed. Technology had simply changed the stage upon which the timeless play of courtship unfolded. He remembered the anticipation of Mary's letters. Reading them felt like a slow unveiling of her thoughts, her humor, her affection. Each word was chosen with care, each sentence a deliberate connection across distance. It required patience to write, patience to send, and patience to receive. The waiting amplified the joy when the letter finally arrived. Now, Maya could have a constant stream of communication with Alex. Quick bursts of text, shared images, instant reactions via emojis. It lacked the slow, deliberate weight of a letter, but it allowed for a continuous presence, a weaving of their daily lives together through shared digital snippets. It was a different kind of intimacy, built on frequency and immediacy rather than measured reflection. He thought about the ways technology, even simple technology, had shaped his own relationship with Mary. The coded messages left on their answering machine when they were first dating, little inside jokes only they would understand. The excitement of getting their own phone line when they moved in together, a symbol of their shared life. Later, the advent of early mobile phones meant they could check in with each other more easily, a small comfort during busy days. Technology hadn't changed their love, but it had provided new avenues for it to flow, adapting as their lives did. Now, for Maya's generation, the technology was not just an avenue, but often the primary channel for initiating and maintaining connection. Dating apps that curated potential partners based on algorithms, social media that allowed you to present a carefully constructed version of yourself, video calls that allowed for face-to-face interaction without being in the same room. It seemed efficient, dazzlingly so, but Arthur wondered if anything was lost in the speed. Was it harder to build depth when everything was so immediate? Was the constant stream of potential partners overwhelming? He looked at Maya, her expression now thoughtful. She was navigating a dating world he could barely comprehend technically, yet he knew, with absolute certainty, that her heart felt the same things his had at her age. The flush of excitement when her phone buzzed with a message from Alex, the flicker of insecurity when she didn't get an immediate reply, the hopeful planning of their next date. "It's funny," Maya said, breaking the silence again. "We have all these ways to talk, all these apps and things, but sometimes it feels harder to really connect. Like, is this person who they seem to be online? Is a few texts and emojis the same as a real conversation?" Arthur nodded slowly. "That's the timeless part, isn't it? No matter the technology, you're always trying to figure out who someone is, whether they're genuine, if your feelings are matched. We did that face-to-face mostly, or through the effort of writing or calling. You do it through profiles and messages. The method changes, but the goal is still finding that connection. What's the first photograph you'd want AI to restore for you? Comment below." He remembered waiting for Mary outside the cinema on their first date. He arrived early, pacing nervously, checking his watch every 30 seconds. There was no way for her to tell him she was stuck in traffic, or for him to ask if she was nearby. He just had to trust she would arrive. And she did, walking towards him with a smile that made his heart leap. That moment, the relief and joy of her arrival, felt intensely real, earned by the uncertainty of the wait. Today, Maya might track Alex's location on an app, know exactly when he'd be there. Less anxiety, certainly. But was the surge of relief and joy upon seeing them the same? Probably, Arthur decided. The human reaction to seeing someone you longed for was likely hardwired, immune to technological shifts. "I guess," Maya conceded. "It's just faster now. Everything's faster." "Sometimes faster isn't always better," Arthur said gently. Waiting gave you time to think, to anticipate, to build things up in your mind. It made the moment of connection, when it finally happened, feel incredibly valuable. He paused, remembering another detail. And breakups. Breaking up over text seems abrupt. We usually had to do it in person, or at least over the phone. Harder, maybe, but also felt more final, more respectful of what you'd shared. Maya winced. Yeah, breaking up by text is pretty rough. Or worse, just changing your relationship status on Facebook without telling the other person first. My friend Sarah had that happen. Arthur shook his head. The public performance of relationships online was another layer he didn't fully grasp. His relationships with Mary were private, built in shared moments and quiet understandings, not curated for an audience. He looked at Maya again, at her youthful face illuminated by the phone's glow. She was navigating this complex, hyper-connected world with its own unique set of challenges and opportunities. But she was also falling for someone, feeling the familiar thrill of a new connection, the vulnerability of putting herself out there. The core of her experience was the same as his had been. Technology hadn't invented love or attraction or the desire for companionship. It had simply provided a new set of tools, a new language, a new rhythm for the ancient dance of courtship. The beepers, the landlines, the letters, they were the technology of his era, shaping how love was sought and expressed. The smartphones, the apps, the DMs, they were the technology of Maya's era, shaping the dance for her. And perhaps, in a way, this conversation was a form of memory preservation, not of digital files, but of lived experience. Arthur was sharing the operating system of his past, allowing Maya to understand the roots of the human connection she was experiencing now. His memories, once just his own, were now bridging the gap between their generations, creating a shared understanding. He felt a surge of warmth, a different kind of connection, the quiet, steady love between grandparent and grandchild, finding common ground in the timeless human heart. The technology of their respective dating lives might be worlds apart, but the feelings they navigated were universal. So, Arthur said, a playful tone in his voice, if you had to write Alex a love letter, on paper, right now, could you? Maya giggled, burying her face in a cushion for a moment. Oh my gosh, Grandpa. That's like ancient history. I wouldn't even know where to start. What kind of paper? Do they still sell stamps? What if my handwriting is messy? All valid concerns, Arthur laughed. But maybe try it sometime. Just for yourself. See how it feels to choose each word, to physically write it down. Maya peeked out from behind the cushion, a thoughtful expression on her face. Maybe, she said. It does sound romantic, in a weird, old-fashioned way. It was, Arthur agreed. And waiting by the phone felt desperate, in a weird, old-fashioned way. They shared a smile, a genuine connection formed across the technological divide. The past wasn't just a series of outdated devices and inconvenient processes, it was a different rhythm of life, a different way of experiencing emotions that remained fundamentally the same. Arthur's memories, shared in this quiet afternoon conversation, were a testament to that enduring human heart, beating its way through changing times and evolving technology, always in search of connection. And in that shared moment, watching his granddaughter navigate her modern world while understanding his past, Arthur felt a deep sense of peace. The core of it all, the hope, the vulnerability, the joy of finding another soul, hadn't changed at all. The digital memory lane. We may forget, but our memories can still find their way back to us. If you've ever found a photo that changed your day, like this video and share your story. What memory would you restore if you could? Tell us in the comments below.